Washington. It is an enormous blessing to be home. I am so grateful for you, for what CCJ represents about who we are as Delawareans and what over 20 years you've done to contribute to access to justice, to leveling the playing field, to improving the quality of legal services here in Delaware. As you know, if you happen to be in a criminal court, you're entitled after Gideon v. Wainwright to have legal representation. Brendan O'Neill, who was my next door neighbor for a decade, took the bar alongside me, has regaled me and challenged me with stories of work in the public defender's office, literally now for decades. But in the civil justice side, that's not the case. You're not entitled to counsel, and in so many cases we have folks who face critical junctures in their lives without an attorney representing them. And an awful lot of what Delaware CCJ makes sure happens is that in some cases, 20% of cases, there is legal representation. So to the folks here tonight who represent these plucky, under-resourced, punching above their weight organizations, to Dan Atkins of Community Legal Aid, to Doug Canfield of Legal Services Corporation of Delaware, and to Janine Howard of Rangers of DVLS, thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you represent about us. To Mayor Przicki, to Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall Long, to our Chief Justice, and everybody else who's here. Thanks for the opportunity. Just briefly to say that as a young man, I found law classes incredibly boring. Had real difficulty paying attention, struggled. I think I started property 3 times before I finally finished it. What grabbed me was actually being in court representing people, was understanding the plight. Almost all of my clients were single women with kids who were facing imminent eviction, and understanding what imminent homelessness meant for them. I had an appreciation of that because the year before I went to law school, I spent a year working for the National Coalition for the Homeless. I worked out of New York City as a shelter monitor, but I also worked in Iowa, New Hampshire, Michigan, and Georgia, stayed in homeless shelters, organized statewide coalitions for the homeless, and helped partner with other legal services organizations in those states to try and pull together in the face of what at that time was the first real wave of nationwide homelessness since the Great Depression, tried to pull together effective statewide organizations. As we all know, without access to a lawyer, things are much harder. So when you face eviction, you face a moment of enormous change for you and your children. And if we can level the playing field for those who face that moment, we do a lot to make our communities healthier and safer and more prosperous. You've likely seen on the screen behind me the results of a Delaware CCJ study from 2 years ago that says for every dollar invested in legal aid, there's a return of $7.23 in economic benefit for Delaware and its communities. If you think about that just as an ROI, that is a remarkable return on investment. Let me also mention in passing that I serve you on the United States Senate Appropriations Committee. One of my priorities has been fighting for stronger funding for the Legal Services Corporation, which has largely been flat over literally decades. But in the last 3 years, the president has submitted a budget every year that zeroed out the legal services. Actually, it doesn't zero it out. It would have given legal services $18 million to close up shop. So it was $18 million to wind up operations and literally close. But on a bipartisan basis in the Senate and the House, with support from Republicans in the Senate and Democrats in the House, we added $25 million to the legal services budget 2 years ago and $5 million this year. It is still far, far below what it should be. We are still far too dependent on local communities and their generosity and their engagement. But I just wanted to let you know that I am trying my best to pitch in what ways I can. 93% of the federal dollars that go into legal services go directly to communities. This has a low overhead and a great impact, and virtually every city, county, and state in America and the territories benefits from legal services. Of course, there's 3 organizations here tonight that benefit across the full range of needed legal services. Let me just say last, as we move into the week of Thanksgiving, I think we all ought to think about our blessings. One of the real blessings of the state of Delaware is being a state of neighbors, a state of folks who see as neighbor, not just those who live literally next door to us, not just those who speak the same language or worship in the same way or come from the same ethnicity or background, but we see as neighbors people of real differences, but we see as similar to us, and we expand the reach of our inclusion here in Delaware in a way that makes me proud. I am very proud to represent you in Washington and to work with you here and to have an opportunity to thank and recognize all of you who have supported this great organization in the years past. And for those of you for whom this might be a first time coming or a first time thinking about supporting it, there's virtually nothing you can contribute to or support in the state of Delaware that will do more to improve justice, prosperity, and kindness in our state. Thank you.